You know, there's like a lot of, I guess, things that I actually had to become exposed to, just like anybody else who, lives or whatever the case may be when you're actually in the process of maturing. I'm a 70s kid. I was born in the 70s. And for the most part, it's the issue or the concept of really being gay or effeminate as far as men goes was something that was really kind of foreign to me. I really didn't actually understood or really had any type of real grasp or understanding as it was. But the issue is that, again, in the process of learning, and maturing, as I stated before, you begin to become exposed to a lot of things, not so much where you actually go out and actually practice what, you're exposed to, but you actually just sit back and really see things and really try to get some sort of understanding. And the more that you see these things, the more things actually, become a lot clearer to you, and you begin to kind of see where everything goes and how it fits together. It's like a puzzle. But for the most part, when I was actually, again, in the 80s growing up, again, remember, I'm from the 70s because, again, I was, I guess, born in, as they would say, the disco era, or whatever the case may be. But again, when I was actually, continuing my growth in the 80s, as you would say, there's a lot of, things that America was actually being introduced to, for the most part. Blacks were actually beginning to make their way onto the mainstream by the hundreds or what have you, and the thing about it, again, is that we start to see a lot of music videos. I mean, we start to see like a lot of stuff, situational comedies such as, the Cosby Show, and then we actually had movies also where they actually, had, it was kind of like an interesting touch with it, such as, like the Breakfast Club. I really enjoyed the Breakfast Club because that was one of the 80s movies that I actually just like to just sit down. Even to this day, I still have a favorite pastime. I would just sit down and just kind of just look at the movie and just eat popcorn as if, I never really saw it before, but I really enjoyed those particular flicks of the 80s, Again, and then you actually had other situational comedies such as, Different Strokes, those type of things that actually came on that was pretty much a source of entertainment for not only me, but for countless other people, to watch on TV during the 80s era. But for the most part, again, even though I was watching these particular programmings on television, I actually was never actually exposed or actually never saw or was given some sort of an explanation or some sort of an up close and personal interpretation somewhat of what effeminate men actually were. Again, in the and because of that, again, I continued to watch television, and then there was a program that actually came on. I think this was like in the early 80s, I'm not sure. But there's a situational comedy called Three's Company. I don't know if you all remember that. Some of you, I'm pretty sure all of you who may be listening to this may have some sort of familiarity with it. But again, I actually kind of took a liking to it. I kind of sat down and watched it. I would sit down with my other, siblings or whatever. We would watch it or whatever the case may be. But the interesting part about it is that, it's not so much the storyline, because we already know how the storyline went, where Jack Tripper actually came over, actually attended a party that was given for their roommate, Chrissy, and Janet's roommate, Eleanor. They were giving her a going away party, and the party got a little too crazy where Jack drank a little bit of punch, and actually next thing you know, he actually was found in the bathtub. And that's pretty much how the girls, Chrissy and Janet, actually got to know Jack, and they became best friends or whatever the case may be. But the issue is that what really kind of caught my eye is the fact of the relationship that Jack actually had with Mr. Roper. And Mr. Roper, of course, is the individual that's down to the in the middle of the screen for the most part. It's so funny because, again, of how his relationship actually came with him, because the issue is that he was actually under the impression that Jack was actually gay. And the funny thing about it is that, again, he would not allow Jack to stay in that apartment with the girls unless he was actually, that sort of way. So again, we would actually see different episodes, where he would actually go and actually pretend to be gay, where he would be trying to cuddle up with Mr. Furley. It was kind of funny. I mean, like I say, looking at it back in the 80s, again, this was something that really, I knew that word actually, was around, gay, but I really never really knew what it meant. Because the thing again is, is that anytime I would see something or hear of anything being mentioned about gay, it was always referred to someone who was white, not necessarily anybody who was black. And again, in the return, what Mr. Roper would do, he would always tease Jack, by, putting his hands in those little gestures or whatever that you may see, where he would actually twiddle his, dangle his hands and let him know that, that Jack was a fairy and all these other type of things or whatever the case may be. So but the thing about it that Jack pretended to be that way just so he can actually stay in the apartment with the girls so he wouldn't get kicked out for being straight. even though, in that particular comedy, he played and he is, he was a straight guy. So he was able to live with them and actually, go on to produce subsequent seasons with them. How the typical storyline goes and how it ended. So that was, for the most part, my particular taste, if one could say, as far as, or I would say, an introduction to the concept of actually someone actually being called gay, where it was actually portrayed on screen. I mean, like I say, I know it wasn't like a big deal at the time, and like I say, and it really did not. It really did not actually, I guess, give me any type of ill feeling towards black folks, because for the most part, at this particular time in the 80s, when I was looking at this, you never really saw any, black men that were actually acting in an effeminate way. So for the most part, I really didn't have anything that I could reference, or actually that I could pinpoint, to actually say, okay, well, this is only something that's actually, given or actually acted upon by white folks. Now, again, later on in the 80s, I began to, again, to continue to watch TV. And again, I came across a movie, where they actually had a bunch of frat fellows or whatever that was actually attending a college. And for the most part, you all probably remember this as the Revenge of the Nerds, where, they actually had all these people, nerds, who were attending college, and you actually always had to have one fella in there, who actually was not acting like the others. And for the most part, a lot of people may actually, when looking back at it now, a lot of people could probably say this is the beginning of the transformation process of black men. And if you were to ask me, I would say, you know what, they're dead on point. Because all throughout the movie, even though I was watching a typical movie about frat, college life, nothing new there, especially during the 80s, partying and stuff like this, my eyes was actually drawn to the black guy. Okay, because I wanted to actually see, for the most part, how he actually conducted himself being around all other white folks. I wasn't actually seeing things from a racial standpoint. I was just actually wanted to just see, that, okay, he's different. He's not like the rest of them. So I wanted to see how he was going to actually play his part, in his relationship with the other people. And for the most part, I really didn't understand. And it actually surprised me on how they actually portrayed him. I still didn't know that, know what it was that was really going on. Because the thing about it is that when you talked about effeminate guys, I'm always referencing white folks, because that's what I knew, as far as, the Three's Company the issue. But when this particular movie came out and I saw this, I'm like, well, not white people are not the only ones that actually act effeminate. You got black men that are actually doing this as well. The worst part about this, though, is that they actually had him acting, and not only acting the part, but actually dressing the part also. I mean, like I said, you didn't see many black men in the 80s during this particular time that was actually, dressing like a female. And like I say, not only was he dressing like a female, he actually had the mannerisms and everything else of a female, and that pretty much to me was something that, I'm like, wow, what's going on here? I never seen this before, and the thing about it is that, is this something new that black men are actually doing? Is this something that is catching on? Is this a new popular thing for black folks? Because remember, during this time also, as far as music goes, we had the bebopping and the long chains, the Reeboks, the Adidas generation, all this other type of stuff going on, where black men were actually, out there showing their skills as far as, their masculinity in rapping and all this other type of stuff, battles of rapping and stuff like that. But on the television screen, where on the movie screen, you actually had it where black men were being portrayed as being overly effeminate. And to me, like I say, I really didn't understand what it was. I mean, I knew what it was, but I didn't really understand why they were actually portraying these men to behave this way. And like I say, this particular theme for this particular fellow continued all throughout the movies, and stuff like that. And like I say, it really, I think, was the premise for a lot of the things that we actually see today. I mean, you can't, and like I say, even looking back now, I see a lot of hit movies, where, you actually portray, blacks to be effeminate. And I mean, it really, actually, to tell you the truth, honestly, it really didn't start in the 80s. You can go as far back as like Car Wash and stuff like that. I mean, black folks know what that movie's all about. White folks too, I guess, for those that liked it. But like I say, to me, this was actually the beginning point of actually the transformation of actually making the black man, or molding the black man into what you wanted, or what society actually wanted the black man to become. And the sad part about it, again, is that, I really, again, didn't understand what it was all about. All I know is that this is what I saw, and you can't help what you see. And again, not long after that, then you begin to actually have more black men that are on the television screen, you know, in the 80s doing things that were, I guess, considered to be more of a womanly thing to do, like aerobic exercising and a lot of other stuff. I mean, like I said, you know, it was a crazy time, I think, for the black man, because again, you know, again, we were still, you know, fresh out of the 70s, you know, we still weren't seen as being equal yet by white society. So I believe this is more of a way for black men to actually fit in, to try to be equal with white folks. That's just the way that I actually saw it. I could be wrong, but like I say, you know, to each his own. This is my video, it's my opinion, and I own that, okay? But again, we actually, again, started to see more and more of this where, you know, going around where, you know, black folks were starting to pop up and they were starting to behave in ways that really, to me, was kind of a bit on the, I don't know, crazy side, I guess you would say. I don't know, where even with the dressing, you know, the apparel of the 80s, the dressing, I mean, like I say, looking back at it now, I'm like, wow, what were we thinking, you know, with these booty shorts on, you know, and stuff like that. I mean, again, I was used to seeing white folks like that because, again, you know, this is what we actually saw them in all throughout the 80s. But now you're starting to intermingle and put black folks into there with that. So next thing you know, it's like, okay, the black man is not being seen as, you know, the person that he's supposed to be, which is the strong man of the household. In my opinion, it was all about trying to be accepted. And like I say, it's not all that far from what's being done today. But the issue is that it's amazing at how you can actually see where this particular issue started from. And again, with that particular issue going on, then we actually had the issues where now we are dealing with you know, the first boy bands where they were actually coming out, you know, and doing their thing, you know, so, such as the Culture Club and a whole other host of bands that came out there where they were actually starting to openly explore, in my opinion, their sexuality. And like I say, this is pretty much the turning point where men in general were starting to really, I guess, deter from the role that I believe that they actually should have stayed in, which is, of course, being the man that, you know, they were created to be, instead of, you know, the fellas or the gentlemen that society wanted them to be. You know, America now has like a very, I guess, a great fascination now with this particular issue that's going on with not only men in general, but most notably black men, as far as the effemination of them is currently going. You know, again, you know, it's like to the point where that's all that you would see on, you know, television shows, you know, mainstream media, Facebook, people talking about it and stuff like that. And it also has become the topic of discussion here on social media sites such as YouTube. You know, I remember not long ago, I think it was maybe 2 years ago or something like that, where I actually did a video talking about this very subject, you know, for the most part, and I call it the feminization of today's men. And for the most part, I still have it up to this day. And for, you know, every so often I still get comments and everything. And like I say, to me, this is like the most views I've gotten on any video. And I know, like, before, a lot of you say, well, you know, that's not a big deal. To me, it's a big deal because I'm not used to getting these types of numbers as far as any video that I do, because the videos that I do mainly don't generate or bring in a lot of views. I mean, for whatever reason, I'm okay with that, as I always are. I am. But the issue is that it is fascinating because the thing about it is that America has an obsession, for the most part, with, you know, the way black men are becoming, you know, and the fact it's I think the reason behind that is because, again, you know, it's like it's a role that they never thought that we would actually be comfortable with filling, you know. And like I say, and when you ask most of the people these days, it's like, okay, well, it's a part of the norm. I mean, it's not, you know, you can go on YouTube and, you know, just, you know, look at clips of people, you know, and stuff like that, where they look like they're comfortable in their own skin. You know, it's like they are okay with the feminine gestures, you know, interviews and stuff like that, where, you know, it's like, I don't understand. It's like I'm looking at another woman talking to another woman, you know, and it's like, I don't know if you could take that as being disrespectful or, you know, whatever, but it's like you can't really deny what you see. I mean, and like I say, this is something that we're seeing and that's repeatedly going on, you know, and like I say, you know, it's like now this culture actually is okay with it. And like I say, not only that, they don't even have to be dressed like that all the time. They can actually, have a suit and tie on, and begin to still, have this particular issue going on, and it's just the fact about it is that, a lot of people are looking at these videos of these men, and it's like, okay, well, I know I'm not there to judge anyone, but like I say, what's going on with the men of today, the black men? I mean, why are they like that? And like I said, I've talked to a lot of people, and we've had discussions about it, and I would actually have to come away with trying to, again, even though I did the videos like that in the past, I still come away with scratching my head trying to figure out, what's going on. Why is this something that black men are choosing to be? And like I say, I think that it goes a lot deeper than just, wanting to quote unquote be yourself and all this other type of stuff that, these type of people, or the people that practice that lifestyle, they it's like they offer up a lot of things, and the main thing that they say is that they want to be happy. Okay, fine, whatever that's supposed to mean. But not even that, you actually have also too, where they're out having a good time, and partying and all this other type of stuff, which, if that's what they want to do, I'm not going to sit there and condemn anybody with that, like I say, but it's just the issue is that it's just fascinating. And I guess I'm not meaning that in a good or bad way, but it's just fascinating that, this type of, this is I guess the end result, or as I would say, the final destination. I don't know if I can say that, with what our black men are becoming. And the thing about it is that every day you're starting to see them. It's like, wanting to practice that lifestyle or become effeminate, and for the most part, they are just okay with it. But what about, the ones who are not clearly easily, prancing around, being overly effeminate, with the nail polish and all this other type of stuff? What about these types of people that, there are, men on YouTube that are, just like that? They don't have the makeup on and stuff like that, but they are very argumentative. We also have, YouTube also has a place for them as well. And the sad part about it is that, again, they're starting to actually become a bit mainstream as far as, making their presence on YouTube as well, because of the many videos that they do, offering different opinions, and arguing with other folks just because they may not view or have the same opinion as someone on a particular subject. Like I say, it's funny, when you actually run into these type of people, because, they always actually have certain characteristics that, that they never deviate from. And for the most part, and let me actually just kind of break this down, because I guess it's very important, because I don't want to just bring up something and not just, talk about it thoroughly. I want to actually be able to thoroughly talk about it open and honestly, so we can all come away with some sort of an understanding. Whether or not you agree with it, hey, it's on you, but it's just, I want to, just kind of delve into it for just a minute. But again, today we have a lot of people that use YouTube, and the thing about it is that they're using YouTube for the most part to become, combatant. They threaten people's lives. They, put, as they say, post personal information about folks, taking hits out on people. I mean, YouTube now is becoming where, you really don't want to really get in any sort of altercation with someone, because you never know what people may do, to get back at you. And for the sad part about it, you actually have men that are actually the major perpetrators of this particular type of behavior, because it's like today's man, you can't even sit down with him and disagree with him, about something and just come away with just being in a disagreeable state. They always have to come away with, wanting to actually, I guess overdo or want to somehow overpower you with their many words or their threatening words. And for the most part, this is what's being done with most of these black men also, in addition to what I've talked about previously. Number one, they're angry. I mean, and the thing about it that, they really don't have, I guess, I don't know if they have a lot of love in their life. They don't have a lot of people that care about them. I don't know what the issue is, and I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to sit there and try to delve into that. But they always come on with a presence of actually not really ever having anything lighthearted or anything to say. It's like they're always angry about something. They're never satisfied. Something is always wrong, and they feel the need to straighten something out. They have to kind of, put out something to kind of, I guess, set some sort of record straight about something. I mean, and like I say, we see them a lot here on YouTube. I mean, and like I say, all I do is when I run across them, I just laugh and keep it moving, because, hey, there's nothing I can do. All I do is sit back and watch. The next one, you have to really deal with is the fact that they always want to, again, have the last word. You know, it's like endless video after video after video in response to this person, in response to that person. I mean, it's like they want to have the last word just like a typical female. I mean, you have a lot of women that, you know, most of them that are very argumentative, and they are not satisfied until they actually feel like, you know, they shut you up. And the only way that they can do that is by, as they would say, having the last word. You know, so for the most part, they figure that having the last word somehow means that they defeated you. You know what? I've been in beefs with, well, I would call them beefs, but I've been in altercations and discussions with men that were like that. And you know what? I was like, you know what? Somebody has to be the bigger person, and apparently, you know, it's all about the war of words, and the many words that you can say, I guess, means that somehow you've defeated the other person. So you know what? I'll go ahead and let the other person, you know, feel like they've won the conversation, and I just leave it alone. Because it's not really worth it. I mean, if you really think about it logically, it doesn't make sense to sit there arguing with somebody who you may never even meet. I mean, you're talking to a computer screen, for goodness sakes, and you're getting upset at someone, and you leave these endless back and forths, you know, beefing with somebody. And the thing about it is that it's all over opinion. At the end of the day, it's just that we are just going to have to agree to disagree. You know, that's the way that I would look at it, and I would just leave it alone. The next issue that I actually want to talk about again is the constant engagement in drama. And we see this all too often here on YouTube, where you have folks that are always into something. They're always a part of some sort of disagreement. Their name is always being brought up in somebody else's mouth because of something that they may have said or something that they may have done, you know, outside of the computer screen, you know, making phone calls, you know, trying to get somebody, trying to release documents. And like I say, you know, trying to convince somebody else to dislike somebody, you know, it's drama. And like I say, females do this type of stuff. I mean, so why in the world would a man, you know, a sober thinking man would want to do something like that? Which brings me on to my last point. You know, it's like you're very messy, and you know what I mean by that. And if you don't know, I'll tell you. It's like you just don't really have an agreeable. You're really not very pleasant to be around, or to talk to, or to conversate with, because it's always about, you know, wanting to keep up drama, wanting to play both sides, wanting to always be happy when somebody else is at odds with somebody else. You know, for whatever the reason may be. I mean, like I said, this is what today's man has been black man, I should say. This is what they've been today known for. And the thing about it is that it's sad, because again, you know, it's like, okay, what's going to go on now? Where is our black men? And I've heard of this many times, and a lot of people ask, you know, where is the real black men? Will they please stand up? And I'm like, okay, well, you have them here, but they're just being overshadowed by those who really want to put on airs to transform themselves into what other people want them to be, to somehow gain attention. You know, but in the end, you know, I don't want to sit here and go on and on with this. But again, I just figured that I wanted to revisit this particular subject because I think it's fascinating, not in a good way, but it's just the fact that you just cannot help but try to figure out or want to see how low black men are going to go as far as, you know, this particular transformation is concerned. I mean, like I say, we already have the issue where you got a lot of people out there that are talking about transgenders and stuff like that. White folks are doing it now, but I'm trying to wonder, how long is it going to be where black folks, you know, are going to start talking about it, and they're going to start talking about it openly on television, you know, and even encourage other folks to do it, you know? But that's just one of those things we're just going to have to sit back and just wait and see, I guess. But anyway, that's all that I actually wanted to talk to you guys about today. And again, you know, I'm not trying to sit here and trying to dog on anybody or trying to harp on anybody. I'm a sober thinking individual, just like most of you, I would think, that look at videos. But, you know, I just felt the need to kind of talk about something that I can see and that I know that you see as well. So peace out, folks, and have a great day.